All right, and we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to day three of the Chakra UI launch week. Today's community day, so it's all about you. Throughout the week, we've been launching, new features, releases, and today it's all about you interacting with the community. And we are very excited to be live with you. Sage, how are you doing today? How has this launch week been for you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. The launch week has been quite interesting and exciting for me. I would say like maybe like my favorite part of the launch week is like putting out the MCP server.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I really enjoy the MCP server one because like I use it also and it's like pretty helpful to migrate projects, to build new apps, new features, new blocks. I mean, it's really amazing.
Yeah, the MCP server was definitely one of my favorite releases this launch week. And for anyone wondering, this is actually Chakra UI's first official launch week. We've had launches in the past, but
Yeah.
this is our first official launch week. So we tag this launch week one, and hopefully we're able to do more launch weeks in the future. So yeah, MCP server was one of my favorite releases, and today we'll be demoing the MCP server, what we launched on day one, what we launched on day two, which was DX improvements and just interacting with you, the community. So if you're joining us live, feel free to put in the chat, say hi, say where you're joining us from, and if you've tried any of the features so far, we'd like to hear from you, right? Yep. All right, I can see you dropped links to the launch week, so
Yeah,
feel free
I
to
did.
also,
So honestly,
yeah,
check it out.
yeah, feel free to check it out to catch up on everything. Because for each day we had video summary of everything we launched as well as blog posts, so you can definitely check those out. So let's talk about day one, which was like the highlights of our launch week. We released and launched the MCP server. Yay! I'm extremely excited because I know that when we're developing and when the MCP server was still under development, I tried it. I was able to do a lot of things with the MCP server. So I'd like us to talk about it right now. Let's start with the basic Sage. Why the MCP server in the first place? Like, why did we go this route on launching an MCP server for Chakra UI?
Yeah, I mean, there are many reasons, but I think I'll just keep it short. The very clear one is like, I mean, I guess, I mean, Chakra, I mean, cannot miss out on the AI world, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
definitely.
we've been thinking about this. We've had several iterations of this idea around like what can we build AI. So I think, I mean, delving into the world of AI and all the systems that exist there was clear that the MCP server was a gateway. So even if you wanted to build like a full blown like chat application, the MCP server would be like a pretty good gateway to actually like get that done. All right. So the idea then was like if you ask any AI system today, most AI systems are not too familiar with Chakra V3. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
them are trained on Chakra V2. So if you go to any of the AI system and ask what is today's date, you most likely see that they're not using like what today is. They're using the last day of their training, right? So that
Yeah.
gives you a clue as to like how old these systems are, and most of them know V3, V2 code. I mean, so the idea was kind of how do we bridge the gap so we can provide like up to date knowledge of Chakra V3, and I
Mm-hmm.
think the MCP server is like a very clear one. Yeah, and it definitely did have a lot to do with like how do we expose as many information as possible so the MCP and all the agents that use the MCP could actually design something that looks nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I remember when the whole AI buzz started, I think that was in 2023, like 2 years ago. And lots of AI stuff. But in the last 1 year, the way AI has really exploded everywhere, it's just been crazy, right? And I
Yeah.
remember one time just sitting and thinking about AI is everywhere. How can Chakra AI really key into this whole AI hype and AI realm. And when the whole thought of an MCP server started, I was very excited because it was just like the missing piece that we needed in Chakra UI, and trying it has been very exciting. So yeah, definitely we would love to do a bit of demo. But before the demo, I know a couple of people might be wondering, for people that are already using like specific tokens, and they have a custom theme in their design system, they're using Chakra UI. How does using the MCP affect their custom theme right now? How does the MCP handle all those custom token configurations?
For right now, the MCP server is just built around like the default Chakra UI theme. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't try to read from your project to know what's going on there and expose that information. I think that would be a nice to have feature. It's on our roadmap, of course, for the MCP server
Okay.
because I think it would be a lot more productive if an MCP server knows about the context of your project, which is what
Yeah,
AI is anyway
definitely.
about. So we want to actually support that at some point in the future, right? But right now it's trained based off of like the default
Of
chakra
the
theme.
default chakra theme.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, you could also, AI systems are pretty robust today. You could also instruct your AI system to like when you're done doing chakra stuff, check my own theme also and make sure that like you use my theme
Well,
in there. Right. So
yeah,
that's an instruction you could add.
yeah, I actually have prompted, I've used it in that kind of way because I had like a custom theme, and I used the MCP server, and I found out that because I had the custom theme in my file, right, it actually looked through that custom theme and tried to build something on top of my custom theme. So I think the AI model itself is generally smart, and it can just figure things out by itself.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So another thing I want us to quickly talk about before we go into the demo is the support for Chakra UI Pro API key. I know we launched without that support right now, but it's definitely something that is on the roadmap. So could you like share more about why there's a need for like this pro components, pro templates, and possibly give us an idea of when this feature will be available?
Yeah, sure. So, for those that don't know, the MCP server, like by default, gives you, Chakra UI, the basic default Chakra UI components, the theme, and all of that. So, if you ask it to build something for you, so let's say you want it to build like a login page, it's just going to try to read through all the docs and all the examples in the docs and try to make up something by itself. It will try to keep it consistent and at least make it look nice based off of the semantic tokens. I think that's one way. But I think another important part for the AI is like if you've got already like pre-made blocks of components,
Mm-hmm.
like a login card, a nice looking background. If you've got all those pre-made blocks, it's also like a good part to train your AI system to learn about those, so that it actually knows what good. It learns about the taste of that component, right? So Chakra UI Pro is like all of the component composition and blocks that we've created, feeding that into the AI. So it learns about like the tastes, the kind of UI consistency we need, the kind of
Mm-hmm.
code pattern we prefer, so that everything looks good and works reliably. So that is really what that support means. So at some point you'll be able to go to if you have a license key for Chakra UI Pro, you'll be able to create an API token, use that API token in the MCP server, and just by doing that, the entire agent can learn about like the entire Chakra UI Pro blocks. I think there are over 200 or 250
Yeah,
blocks or
yeah, right.
so, even no
Yeah,
more.
quite a huge number.
So like that's a huge number of blocks that the AI could learn from, and I think with those you could actually generate pretty much any UI you can
Yeah,
imagine.
and you can go a lot faster because it already has context to the kind of block. So it's not just dealing with like let's say the preliminary smaller blocks. Now you have bigger chunks of Chakra UI Pro blocks that you can now build on top of. So enough talking. Let's go into the demo of this MCP server. Let's see how it works. What are you going to be using it with? I think you use lots of cursor, right?
Yeah, I use Cursor a lot,
Okay,
so I
so
prefer to do that at least right now.
yeah. Right now I use GitHub Copilot. Yeah. So I'm still on the Copilot VS Code team. So let's
Okay.
go. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, sure. I'll share my screen. One second. I'm
Okay.
just gonna grab the. I'm gonna paste the link to the MCP server here, so that people are
Okay.
like pretty familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could put that up.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna grab the link to like how to set it up,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't forget. And then I'll share my screen. All right. So let's bring my screen onto the stage. All right. So I'm gonna start first with the docs. I mean, that's what the docs looks like. I'm just gonna zoom in a bit. So generally speaking, to set up the MCP server for Cursor, you have to create this like mcp.json file.
Mm-hmm.
.cursor MCP. The cursor is where you put all the cursor stuff, and then you grab the MCP setup, like so. So I'm just gonna switch over here, and create like mcp.json. And then I'll paste that in. So with that in place, you can always kind of like check to see that it's kind of like set up. So you can go to your cursor settings and look at like the tools, and you can see the Chakra UI is set up here, which is pretty much good. So now that we have that, we can kind of like just chat away. As you can see, I've been chatting. So we can chat away and ask questions about like, I mean, something about Chakra UI. So what would you, I mean, what do we want to do here?
Let's see. Let's ask about. Let me see the components. Ask about the model and the dialogue. I know in V2 it was the Chakra UI model component. So let's ask about the dialogue components. Possibly what are the props available?
Yeah. Okay. So let's say like we can ask like what's the model component called in V3?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because that's something that people like. I mean, I have a model component in V2 and it doesn't
Yeah,
no
it's
longer
not doesn't
exist in
exist
V3.
in V3. Yeah,
Um,
that's a good use case.
So as you can see, it kind of like calls a bunch of tools, right? So you can see that it
Mm-hmm.
calls list component, which is a tool that is exposed that returns like all list of all the components. And then it goes through this like V2 to V3 code review or migration
Yep.
tool. That's a purpose built tool we created, so it's kind of easy. So you can see it gives you a nice summary of like in V3 it's called dialogue, it's not modal.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the key prop changes and those are the key structural changes. Right? So if you've got like a piece of code, you could actually just like drop it in and ask it to migrate that for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think one of the reasons I really love MCP, this MCP server, is the fact that, I no longer have to be switching between my docs, the Chakra UI docs, and my IDE. I can literally just stay in the IDE, start up the MCP server, and just start prompting, asking questions. And it has all the information already set up in, all the information that the documentation has. It gives you accurate results, and this is an advantage over using like a chatbot like ChatGPT, which we spoke of earlier. ChatGPT will probably hallucinate and give you a wrong answer, and like that's not what you want. So that's one of the reasons I like the MCP. There's so many use cases for it. I know migration is another use case, so you can ask questions about the current usage of Chakra components. You can also use the MCP to migrate from Chakra V2 to V3. So I think you have something up here,
Yeah,
yeah?
let's I mean show a bit more, I guess.
Okay.
So here, I mean, this is an example I copied from the V2 docs. That's just like I guess a controlled example. So you could ask it
Okay.
to say, that's an example, help me migrate that example. And it looks like that it recognizes that this is a V2 code, and then it calls a bunch of tools such as like trying to get the example from the Chakra V3 docs. And you can see that it pretty much returns like the migrated example, pretty much exactly as it is in the docs. But again, you didn't have to tell it what to do.
Yeah.
Now this is called color palette, not color scheme,
Not color
which
scheme,
is
yeah.
amazing. So I think that just goes to show like the power of AI systems. That when you've got a component library and you expose things like the props of the component, the list of the component, the examples that you have in your docs, you somehow like expose that to the AI system. It can it can do a lot of magic actually. So
Yeah, I
I
think,
mean,
like you said, a
right.
lot of magic. Actually, I used the MCP server to migrate one of my websites. So I created a website, I think early 2023. That's like
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago. And I just did not, it's a static website. I just didn't feel the need to have to upgrade to V3 because it works, it's in production, it runs well. But while I was testing the MCP server, and I was able to migrate my project, the entire components, all the pages within like an hour, right? It was shocking
Oh,
because
that's cool.
it was shocking because it went through everything. Obviously, it took a while, it rested a bit, but the fact that I just needed to prompt it with natural language and it was able to go through my entire component files, update it to the Chakra UI, V3, and just clean up everything. For me, that was really huge. It saved me like how many days of work that will have to be going manually. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
true.
very useful, thing to do with the MCP server. So do you have any other thing? Let's try to build out a page or a section with
Yeah,
it.
sure. Let's get it to build something. What would you like to build?
Let's see. Um And I've tried pricing section. I feel like I always default to pricing section. What else can we do? Um, Dashboard analytics.
I mean, sure, we can tell you to build an. So just say build what type of analytics dashboard are we talking about? Let's say it's NPM. I mean,
Okay, yeah, build
NPM
an NPM analytics dashboard.
analytics analytics dashboard that compares let's say like Chakra UI React or Arc UI React. Let's just say those two. Um,
Okay, that's it.
yeah. So once you send that through, I mean, of course, what you see is that it tries to. I mean, as I always try to start to call like all the tools from Chakra UI. Cursor typically creates a to-do list.
Mm-hmm. And starts to strike them after it's done, right?
Yeah, it wants to sort of like install all the dependencies.
Okay.
So let's try to prompt it so it uses like, I mean, let's nudge it a bit because it's bringing in like chart components.
Okay.
Use Chakra V3. So that would be like a good nudge. And
Yeah.
you should call that. And now it starts to call the Chakra UI tools, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I see
sometimes, I
server has
mean,
different tools, right?
yeah, the server has all sorts of tools
Okay.
to fetch dedicated examples. So you can see here, it tries to learn about the line chart component. And here it tries to learn about the start component. So it's trying to do something with all these components. And it has access to all the examples. Right. So now
Hmm.
it's just going to try to build out like all of that really quickly.
Yeah, curious to see how it turns out. Hi everyone, that's everyone that's joining us on this live session. Say hi in the chat. We'd like to know where you're joining us from. If you've tried any of the features and the releases that we launched this week, if you've tried the MCP server, let us know what you've tried it with, what you've used it for, and yeah, if you're excited about any of the launches that we had this week. Awesome. So it's in page.csx, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Okay.
added some components. It's a bit too zoomed in for me, but at least you can see it.
If you want, you
um,
can zoom out a little if that's fine.
and then there you go. We can actually like see that it's trying to install the required components like Chakra UI charts and recharts. Those are required, and that'll actually get it all working. So it's got all the Chakra components. Now it's bringing in like all the chart components.
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm trying to set it all up as needed.
Mm.
Right. So yeah, that's pretty much the unique power of like having some sort of like MCP server. Because I mean, this is a lot of code I would have to write myself, and it does pretty
Yeah.
well at like making sure they are like chunked. Like it's not one big chunk of code. It breaks it down into like multiple components. Yeah, which is part of the unique features of the MCP server. Right. So
Yeah. And the fact that it's responsive out of the box.
Yeah, actually, yes, it would be responsive out of the box. So once we let the AI do its thing, you'll be able to use that like right away. All right. Of course, we're not going
Okay.
to sit here and like wait till AI is done because sometimes it keeps going.
And going
But yeah,
and going.
what we can see is actually like, I mean, try to read the TypeScript. If there are any TypeScript issues, fix the issues until there are no issues anymore. That's part of the error recovery
Mm-hmm.
feature. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely, I think this MCP server is definitely a step in the right direction because AI has been everywhere, and I'm very excited to see that Chakra UI is leaning into AI driven development, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited actually. It's a lot of things, a lot of work to get to this point, but I think we still have a lot more to go.
Yeah, it is. It is. Is it ready now? Can we see it?
Yeah, it's all done.
Okay.
I mean, let's see if it looks good. I doubt, but let's see.
Why do you doubt? Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'll just pull it up. Um, I think I need to close something else. I've got. Just give me a sec.
Okay, no worries.
So it's coming up on screen. All right, so this is the app that we've got. It's just been built
Um,
for us,
nice.
which looks pretty interesting.
NPM Analytics Dashboard. Okay. Comparing Chakra
Um,
UI NPM downloads to Arc UI, right?
yeah, you can see like it. I mean, it did not too bad actually, as
Yeah,
you
it
can
did a
see.
very decent job, to be fair.
Yeah, it's fairly like uses all the card components, the stats, the charts. Oh, look at that. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is without the pro blocks.
Yeah, this is all without like having access to like well-designed blocks. So this is like what it
Yeah.
can spit out right away, and it's actually looking pretty clean.
Yeah, it looks pretty clean. Yeah, that's really nice. Really nice. Good.
Awesome.
So you did an amazing job. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, feel free to check out the MCP documentation because we have docs that we have highlighted on the screen here. Feel free to check it out and connect it to any of your MCP clients, Claude Desktop, or Claude Code rather, VS Code, Winsoft, Z. We have documentation for literally most of the commonly used tools. So yeah, we'd love to hear your experience using the MCP server. Right. All right. So that's about it. On day two, we did lots of developer experience improvement. So our goal at Chakra UI is to always ensure that when you're using our tool, right, there's minimal friction, little to no friction, able to go faster and work more efficiently. So when we were planning this launch week, we were really thinking about how to make the developer experience a lot smoother. And one of the ways that we decided to do that was obviously with the docs. So let me share my screen. We launched, let me see, how do I share my screen? I don't think I've actually shared my screen before.
Yeah,
So,
it's a little like screen plus icon at the bottom.
okay, I see it. Share screen. Let me
Yeah,
see.
you can show your entire screen, I think.
Yeah, I think, yep.
Yeah, so
Awesome. So, one of the improvements we had on the documentation was to add this really nice, nifty box drop down that has, copy markdown, and view as markdown, open in ChatGPT and open in Claude. So, the point of having this on every component documentation is to enable you to be able to copy the documentation in form of markdown and paste it in your LLM tool or your chatbot. So one good use case for this is a lot of AI chatbots right now, they hallucinate when it comes to Chakra UI components or Chakra UI code. They may not give you the actual um the proper or accurate code. And even if they do that, they will give you version 2 syntax. You won't get version 3 syntax. So say for example, you are building in local, like you're building and developing, and you probably need to spin up a component. If you're not
Yeah.
using the MCP server, you can just go into the components or markdown, grab the markdown, go back to ChatGPT. So let's do an example. Let's take this example. Let's say you want to build an accordion component, so or an FAQ component. So I can say build an FAQ section for me using Chakra UI. So if I send this to ChatGPT, we'll see that it's actually going to build out an FAQ section. But like I said
Yeah.
earlier, all of this is Chakra UI version 2 code. Once you start seeing
Mm-hmm.
lots of imports, you already know it's Chakra UI version 2 code. So one thing you can do is to just paste what we copied, right? Which is the markdown that you copied for the accordion components, and you can
Yeah.
prompt to, so let me just go to the very top here, and I'm going to say read this markdown file. I want to ask some questions. So now we've pasted the markdown into ChatGPT. It has all the
Mm.
context that it needs to have for the accordion component, and I can go back to say now build an FAQ section using the Chakra V3. No, we are not on V4 yet.
And V4 is not bad.
V3 accordion. So right now, what we expect is for it to use the proper V3 syntax, which is what it has here, right? So it's importing just the accordion, and it's not able to use the accordion.roots, accordion.item, accordion.item sugar, and all of
Nice.
sub components. So this is a very good use case in, for our documentation. You have little to zero friction when you're using any of the components. So this is available across board for all component pages. And another thing is you can open it in Claude, you can open it in ChatGPT, right? All of the markdown files, you can open them directly in the tools you preferred to. So this was the first improvement for developer experience that we launched on day 2. Another improvement was the stack blitz, opening up the components examples or the component code in stack blitz. So if you're familiar with Chakra UI ecosystem, right, I know that in V2, one of the things I really enjoyed about the documentation for V2 was to, just being able to edit directly in the code. So I
Yeah,
have a
yeah, I
code
remember.
example and I can just go in and edit it. But in V3, earlier we didn't have the ability to open a stack blitz. So if you have a code example, the workflow would have been to copy all of this, start up your, projects and paste it, and then, so much installation. But how about you just see an example that you really like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can just, let me see one, let's see this. This is a very nice example. You really like this, you want to build on top of this. Instead of grabbing the code, just open it up in Stack Blitz. It opens. You don't have to deal with installation and all of the dependencies. You're able to have the code and edit it directly. And it's a very good use case because if you want to share your, code, a prototype with someone on your team, you can just open it in Stack Blitz, edits, and share that particular, code. So these are some of the improvements that we've made in the documentation to just ensure that when you're building with Chakra UI, you're able to build faster and more efficient. Right. So feel free to check out and play around with all of these documentations and give us a shout out if you're using it on any of our social media platforms, Twitter, on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean, these are really nice. One of the things I like about the Stack Plates one is the fact that you could use that to create like reproductions. So if there are bugs in Chakra, for example, like instead of just like saying like I've created a repo somewhere, you could just like spin
Exactly.
up a Stack Plates and show the reproduction, and we could easily. The fact that we can replicate that quickly means that we can fix it quickly. So
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely like a good addition.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's throwing an error here, but we can
Yeah, it is
definitely
most likely
fix it. Yeah.
Stack Blitz things. Yeah.
Tablet particular error. Yep. So that's about it. The last feature that we added yesterday was the code block component. So say tell us more about the code block components and how to use it. Popular use cases.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got a lot more components. I mean, I'm sure before I talk about this, one thing people will strangle me for right now is the
When
date
is the
picker
date picker
component.
component coming out?
Yeah, yeah, the date picker is in the works. Yeah, just be patient. As always, like creating these new components require a tremendous amount of work. Not just like making it show up, but actually thinking through like lots of examples. As you've seen in the MCP demo, even the AI agents actually need these examples. So the more examples we can provide for any component, the better it is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that is like pretty much the secret sauce to making things work. So becoming a date picker, in essence, just I mean, just take a chill. And it'll be there before you know it. Don't worry.
Yep.
Yeah. So for the code block component, I think that's pretty much just like again, just an additional component that provides like syntax highlighting for like dynamic code generation. What I mean by that is if you're building some sort of like AI application, for example, which is one of the use cases that inspired this. So let's say you tell an agent to build something. Say you've got the Vercel AI SDK, and then you use the generate text or stream text function, and you want
Yeah.
to render the result of that agent. You have to display that in a beautiful looking block in that sense, right? So I'll definitely maybe show the screen also. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the use case for the code block component. So you've got some kind of dynamic code that's been generated. You want to highlight that, use syntax highlight, provide syntax highlighting for that. That's pretty much the use case for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I can show like I mean just do like a quick walkthrough. It's
Quick
not
walkthrough of the documentation.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a sec. Just add my screen on board, and then we go here. All right. So yeah, that's the code block. I mean, don't be too like freaked out about the fact that it's beta. Most of the things are just like I mean, mostly done. We just want to get feedback. That's what it means. To see if there are like opportunities for improvements, right? So the general gist of this is like, I mean, you provide some code like that, and provide a language and potentially the title also, and you could definitely like just like show like, I mean, highlight that syntax. And it's also pretty easy. It supports two major libraries, Shiki and Highlight.js. I think Shiki is the most
Mm-hmm.
common one,
Yeah.
but I think I mean apps like ChatGPT uses like Highlight.js. So it's a bit of just like pick your poison, pick whichever you prefer. In that sense, yeah, we sort of showed how to set that up pretty quickly. And like as you can see, it's got like a bunch of interesting things like different sizes. You can show like a title on top of that. You could render a copy button to like copy that. You could show line numbers. You could do line highlighting. And again,
Mm-hmm.
all of these are done like I mean dynamically at runtime. You see that like
Mm.
those are the lines to be highlighted, and it pretty much just like highlights those lines, right?
Highlighted.
So and you could also do like this nice like line focusing effect, which is interesting. Again, that's also like just passing in the focus line numbers, and that's just like blur everything away and focus on just those. And things like diffs also are nicely done. And it's got this nice expand code collapse button you could play with. Yeah, and for API, for folks that do like, I mean, generate like an API spec or an API table, I mean, those that's just like a nice example to show like how to use that same component for syntax highlighting for that use case.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
so
Yes,
yeah, that's just a
definitely.
quick walkthrough. I
Yeah.
mean, you can check out the docs for more.
Yeah, feel free to check out the docs. The code block is definitely a useful component, and I see it a lot in like specific applications. Like I use code block when I'm using Notion, or so many other applications use code block. So yeah, it's a very nifty enterprise kind of level, or if you're even working on like a landing page and you want to show your SDK right in different languages, you can use the code block. So I know we have quite a couple of people on this live session. If you have any questions about anything at all about the Chakra ecosystem, about this launches, feel free to drop it in the chat so that we can answer your questions before we wrap up. One of the questions I saw earlier, I think on Twitter, when we
Okay.
launched the MCP server was, does this work with V2? That was the question.
What do you mean when you say does
The
it work with
MCP,
V2?
does the MCP server work with version 2? That was the
Oh
question.
no,
Yeah.
all the AI systems are built on V2 already, so we don't need an MCP server for V2 per se. But if you've got V2, just chat with whatever you've got, like Cursor or ChatGPT, just ask away. And most of them are already trained on V2, so there's really no need for like an MCP server for V3. Like I mentioned, the MCP server is just to help bridge that gap between V2 and
Yeah.
V3, instead of waiting for all the AI providers to the LLM providers to retrain based on. I mean, you don't know how long that's gonna take. So we built that
Yeah.
MCP server to bridge the gap. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there going to be like, is there hope of having a front end for, let's say, the MCP server, a native Chakra UI chat bot front end sometime in the future? Are there any hopes for that?
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings each time I think about it. Yeah, maybe that's why I'm not gonna give anyone hope, at least. Yeah, I mean, the mixed feelings I have is usually like around like the cost of running that.
Mm,
Because a lot of people, I mean, managing the cost to make sure that people get a good experience. I think, right now we're seeing like, for example, Cursor is like, under the heat just for like, this token management and making sure like the amount you pay is what you paid for. So that's definitely like some interesting like thing. At the beginning it's exciting, but in the long run it starts to like harm the system, where it's like you're paying a lot for the token usage and you're not getting
mm-hmm.
back so much. I think not it's not an architectural decision. It's more of just like, is this like um
The
a
right, yeah,
worthwhile effort in that sense?
yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. Is it worth investing into? Right.
Yeah, of course. Another way we could do that, even if you wanted to, is to bring your own like API key. So like, if you've got already subscription to OpenAI or Anthropic, you could just like paste that in and you just use that as like some sort of like admin interface
Mm-hmm.
to do your own chart. So that you bear the cost of that
And
interaction. So
not us bearing the
yeah,
costs. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, yeah, I think we've run through everything we needed to demo for today's community day of the launch week. Let me just check if there are any other things. No, any special shout outs? Shout out to everyone that has, stuck with the Chakra UI community. We really appreciate it. Thanks for always interacting, using Chakra UI, spreading the word. Thanks for sticking with us. Yeah, we really appreciate everyone in this community.
yeah, of course. And maybe add my own touch to that also. Like for me personally, I appreciate everyone that joined or at least spent some time to watch this afterwards. I think that means a lot to us, and just the usage of Chakra UI and the feedback we get. It kind of
Yeah,
shows that at least people, you appreciate the work we do. So please keep up the support. We would love to see more of that.
yeah, yep, yep, yep. All right, thank you so much for joining us on today's live stream. And go ahead, try out all the releases, all the features, the MCP server. Feel free to try it out. And whatever you build, whatever use case, don't forget to tag us and give us a shout on Twitter or LinkedIn. Yep. Um, that's about it from me. Till next time, guys. Bye. Yeah.
Bye everyone. See you.